seems the right time. Yeah. So I just started the recording. Just still. Okay, I think we have a good number, so I think we can get started. So this, sorry, I wasn't. Hi, guys. Welcome to the session. So this one is going to be a introduction to SWIFT MT103. So I've worked in SWIFT messages for the past 5 years. So I have some experience in implementing payment engines where SWIFT MT103 was a major part. And recently I've started reading a lot about SWIFT MT103 as well. So I thought I could share whatever I knew via a session, because even if I write posts about it, it wouldn't be as effective as a connect like what we have today. So I thought we can connect this way. So I'm also recording, as I already mentioned, like I'm also recording this session for future use. I mean, I could post it as a YouTube video or something like that. So I still haven't planned what to do with the video. Just recording it for giving it to people who are not able to attend due to some personal commitments. So getting right into topic. Yeah. So I always believe in one thing, that is to I mean, this a quote might be a little exaggerated, but I always feel that if you want to learn a big topic, we start with the basics. We break it down into little chunks. We try to understand as much as possible on the individual chunks and start building up. So we can read about several stuffs regarding payments, and then at a certain point, when we work on a payments project, we'll be able to connect the different dots. So that's my idea of that's how I approach learning payments. So before starting the session, I'm making three big assumptions for the content of this session. So one is every one of us in this session have done a payment in their life. So we have sent money via net banking or mobile banking to another party, a friend, or a business. So that's number one. And the second assumption that I'm making is some of the folks in this session are absolutely new to payments. So I'm going to start from the beginning and then slowly build up towards MT103. So the MT103 part will constitute of 60 to 70%, and general payment stuff will constitute of like 30 to 40% of the session. And the third assumption that I'm making is not all of us are from an IT background. So I would try to refrain myself from using any IT related terminologies in this session. But it will sneak in, so kindly excuse me for that. You can stop me anytime to get clarity on any of the topics that I discuss. So jumping right into the topic. So we all know what a payment is. So whenever we transfer funds or make transfer value from one party to another, it's called as payment. There are several methods of paying, including cash, checks, cards, electronic transfers. So in this session, we are going to talk primarily about the electronic transfers, the last part that I mentioned. And in electronic transfers, there are two major types of payments. One is push payment, other one is pull payment. So we are going to talk about push payment, and specifically what is known as a credit transfer. So where we initiate funds, and the funds reach the beneficiary via the payment system. So that's what we're going to discuss. So as I mentioned in my assumption and in my introduction, that we've all done might have done such a payment. So we log into our internet banking portal or a mobile banking portal. We enter a bunch of information, like the who the beneficiary is, and what is the amount that we are planning to transfer. So what is the purpose of the transaction. So we will not wake up one day and say I need to transfer money to my friend. So there must be some sort of a underlying reason to it. So it may be we might owe them money for the money that they owed us, or it may be for rent, it may be for any other purpose. So we would mention that in the payment, and we'll also provide the account number, the bank details of the receiver. So uh, we would enter that in a bank's portal and instruct our bank to transfer funds from our account to the beneficiary account. So this happens electronically. So in the olden days, I mean, we used to pay cash or some other non-electronic means of transferring funds like check was involved. But these days, a lot of it is replaced by electronic transfers, as it is very convenient, and so on. So in this diagram that I've mentioned, there is a person named John. So he's instructing his bank, let's assume that it's Citibank, to transfer funds to Axis Bank. Uh, and the end beneficiary of the transaction would be Tom. So all these details would be mentioned by John when he makes the instruction. So Citibank will receive such an instruction and then send a payment to Axis Bank. So this payment is basically sort of like a communication containing details of all I mean all the instructions from John, plus some additional details. It's just basically a communication between that happens between two banks, and that communication will aid in the transfer of funds between bank A and bank B. So that's the whole idea of payment in a nutshell. So if you take any country's payment systems or any payment system as a whole, this would be generally the approach in which and the transfer of fund happens. So uh, I'll move on to the next slide. So this is pretty basic. Uh, the picture here generally describes how domestic remittance happens. So by domestic remittance, what I mean is the both the Citibank and Axis Bank are within the same country or a region, and then the both the customers are living in that region and they want to transfer funds with each other. So what would happen if John and Tom lived in two different countries? So that's the big question. Uh, so that's something called as cross-border payments. Cross-border is just the money or the value crosses borders. So that's the basic idea. But the irony is that the money never leaves the monetary zone. So or the country in an electronic transfer. So we'll get to that a little later. The cross-border payments is a type of payment that is done from one country to another. The purpose for this transaction may be to settle money for trade or a foreign remittance. So let's say you go work in a country for a few years and you want to send money to your home. So that might be one reason. So there are several reasons for which we make cross-border payments. But one point, excuse me one second. One point to note is that this cross-border payments are used heavily by corporates or companies more than individual customers. Individual customers use it to a certain extent, but these corporates or companies rely heavily. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Sure. Sorry. Yeah. So these corporates rely heavily on this cross-border payments for their trade and for even transferring amount between two of their branches or subsidiaries and so on. So so The other point, the cross-border payment system actually uses a domestic payment system for transferring funds. I mean, but in this, for example's sake, we are assuming that there is no domestic payment system involved. But actually, there are several ways in which this fund transfer can happen. For our understanding sake, we are assuming that the the domestic payment systems are not utilized. Yeah, for just to understand how MT103 is going to work. And as I mentioned in my introduction, the main point is that the money does not, or the money, that the currency does not leave the country in which the payment is initiated, or the country which receives the payment. So that's another thing that is unique to cross-border payments. So we'll see how in the following slides. Yeah, to make this cross-border payments, there is something called a SWIFT, which is Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It is like a cooperative of different banks that was introduced to solve a particular purpose, that is to ease the communication between two banks from different time zones, from different countries, and so on. So in common terminologies, we use SWIFT as a type of payment, but actually it is a cooperative that provides messaging standards, that provides the infrastructure for banks to communicate financial transactions with each other. So that's the main objective of SWIFT. So what they provide is, they provide infrastructure, they provide software for banks, and they provide they define the messaging standards, the standards that has to be followed by two banks in order to effectively communicate with each other. So previously, this is just an interesting point. Before SWIFT was came into picture, banks used a technology called telex, it is a telegraphic exchange. It's basically like a machine, SMS for the olden days. So there used to be these huge machines that transmitted data from one business to another. So that was based out of the telegraphic network that already existed from the 19th century. So banks used this network to communicate with each other. So not only this, they also used phones, they also used fax, and so on. But all this had drawback. Two major drawbacks were security and automation. So anyone can actually, anyone has this machine can actually send and receive these kind of financial transactions. And the second point was, since human beings were heavily involved in initiating this transaction and processing these transactions, there were a lot of manual errors. Those were the downsides of telex. So to solve that, SWIFT came into picture, and they devised messaging standards. And also there were other problems like language barriers. So a country that does not speak English has to communicate with an English-speaking country became a nightmare. I mean, there were the other bank wasn't able to understand what the sender bank was saying, and so on. So to solve all that, SWIFT came with a messaging standard, and they said, okay, we are going to follow this messaging standard, and this each SWIFT uses something called as tag format. So this each tag will contain certain data, and each bank should interpret that data in a certain way. So that's the protocol that they came up with. So coming directly to SWIFT MT. So SWIFT MT is a proprietary messaging format. A lot of people think that SWIFT is ISO 15022. It is based out of 15022, but SWIFT MT is actually a proprietary format of SWIFT. ISO 15022 is like a bigger, wider framework that used in derivatives and so on. So The MT, SWIFT MT means MT stands for messaging type. So this MT is divided into actually 10 series, 1 to 9, and there is a N series as well. So you can consider it as a separate series. So we'll see all that. If you want to know in detail about the different series, you can go to Swift's website. I can show you how to navigate to Swift's website. So I'll post the link to this in the chat. So this is the 2021 standards. So from you can see it from yeah, the release November 2021. So every year in December, the Swift publishes an initial, a standard, and then it publishes a revised standard in July. So what happens is by November of that year, that standard will come into picture. So this is the latest standard for 2021. Since we are have not reached November 2021 yet, so we are currently using the 2020 standard. That you can get it from the you can go to Swift MT standard and go to November 2020 and get that. So as I said, you can see there are several series of or categories of Swift messages, 1 to 9, and there is a common group message as well. So we are going to concentrate on only one series, and in that series we are going to concentrate on only one type of message. So we are going to concentrate on one series messages. So the one series messages primarily is used for customer payments and checks. So going back to the slide. As I said, the best place to refer the latest Swift format specification is the Swift website. I mean, you can. I mean, you can get the current standards as well as the standards that is going to be used in the upcoming year. So both you can get it here. The Swift MT message has three different characters. So I'm going to use a lot of external links. Excuse me. If you have interacted with me in previously, I would have recommended this website quite a lot. So this is one of my favorite websites to look for payment related information. So I didn't want to prepare everything, as a lot of the stuff that we're going to discuss today is available in this website, and I just want to show where you can find it and so on. So this is the the website's name is paymentor.com, and the author is Jean Paul. I mean, you can really trust the information here, and it's quite good. Uh, so so the empty message will have I mean 5 characters. The first 2 characters are empty, and then you have a 3-digit number. So the message that we are going to discuss today is 103. So the empty message's name is MT103. So the first one stands for the category. So that's the category that we saw in the Swift website. The second number stands for the group. So here you can see the 0 stands for transfers, money transfers. The 1 stands for checks, and 9 stands for the common group messages. So an example of 103 is for customer credit transfer. 110 is for check related message, and 191 is for claims and so on. So I mean, we are not going to get deep on this. Just wanted to give you an idea on what the the naming convention stands for. And then we are going to dive deep into the structure of a Swift message. So the Swift message has 5 blocks, and the 5 blocks are basic header block, application header block. Yeah, was that a question? Okay, I'm proceeding further. So the 5 blocks of the message are basic header block, application header block, user header block, text, and a trailer block. So the basic header block contains a bunch of data. I mean, we are not going to delve into each of these blocks, because every nuance of I mean, each block contains a lot of data, and a lot of the data means a lot of things in different contexts actually. So it will be very time consuming. If we have time, we can actually go ahead with that. I'll just share the link of this in the chat. I mean, when I make a post later in the day, I will try to share all these links. Okay. So here is a sample Swift MT message. So block 1 is the basic header block, and you have block 2 here, and then block 3 here, and then the next comes the block 4, and finally block 5. So the block 4 contains the most of the payment related information, like what is the amount, and what is the value date, and what is who is the ordering customer, who is the beneficiary customer, and so on. We will get into the mandatory and non-mandatory optional fields of SWIFT MT103 a little later. But this is generally the structure of a MT103 message. You will have 5 blocks, out of which usually what we'll do is we will, when you if you worked in a payments project, or if you have worked in operations, you know that you mostly try to modify or edit the details in the block 4. So block 4 is the most commonly edited, or the one that has to be understood well. So for general practical purposes. Yeah. So where was I? Okay. And we were here. So actually I wanted to show you another thing. So in this website, you can go to basic header block. If you click on the basic header block link, you will find detailed information on what each of those characters means, and whether it is mandatory or optional, and so on. So you would have something like this, which gets split into these different values and what they mean in a context, in a bigger context. You can see it here. So this block 1, block 2, and block 3 are common for all messages, including SWIFT MT103. The text block widely varies from one type of message to another. So that we'll see in the next slide. Yeah, coming specifically to SWIFT MT103, it is a customer credit transfer message. So let us see what each of those words mean. So transfer is the transfer of funds from one party to another. Credit transfer means that it is a push payment. By that, what I mean is the debtor initiates the payment, and then the payment reaches the beneficiary or the creditor, and that is the direction in which the payment proceeds. So that is the meaning of credit transfer. And customer here means there must be at least one customer in the whole payment chain. A bank can send funds to a customer can send funds to another customer, or a customer can send funds to a bank. So all these three scenarios, at least one party in the payment chain is a customer. So what do I mean by customer? So I've written an article on this, which talks about the different customers in a of a bank. So these customer may be individuals, companies, governments, or NGOs, or any organizations or associations. So these parties must be involved in this MT103. So if there are two banks that wants to send funds to each other, they cannot use MT103. So that's my whole point. So yeah, the point number 2 I've already covered. So the next point was mandatory and optional fields. So in order to identify which are the mandatory and optional fields, so I would again ask you to refer to the SWIFT website. So we'll see what the mandatory fields are.
Hi, Santosh.
Yeah.
Shipra this side.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to share the link of your article for customer briefing in the chat, please.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. You can please proceed. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just do it right away. There is a message as well. Okay, Swift big. Yeah, that's a valid point. Swift messages use bigs. I mean, I can probably explain that in detail in some time. So okay, I'll take a note of that. So I was talking about the mandatory and optional fields. So how do we view the mandatory and optional fields? So I was here. I click on category 1 messages, message reference guide, and go to Swift MT single customer credit transfer. So this is the this talks about all the different it provides the complete information that you need in order to manipulate or create a Swift MT103 message. So here you go to format specification. So this this page gives you what are the details that must be available in block 4 of a Swift message. So you would have tag 20. So I'll open the Swift message parallelly so that we can see. Yeah. So it talks about the small format specification talks about only block 4 of the Swift message. What field or what fields or tags are optional. So here you can see 20, number 20, 23B, 32A. These are called as tags or fields. So both the terms are interchangeably used. So it'll have a colon on the beginning and at the end. After which there will be a message or a text that will follow. So this page in the Swift website clearly defines what those texts are and what they mean, what are the allowed values, how they must be formatted, and so on. It is the page that defines the standard of the Swift message. So here you can see the status as M, which means that the tag is mandatory. And O means optional, so it need not be present. So tag 20, 23B, 32A, tag 50, 59 and 71 are mandatory. So here in the example message that I showed, so you will see only the mandatory fields present here, but the optional fields will also be present in commonly used Swift messages, depending upon what type of a Swift message it is and so on. uh, so um, so going to the specification page, if you want to really know what each of those tags mean, you can click on there is a number on the right hand corner. So you can click on this number and it will take you to the format page. So now here it says 16x, which means it's a 16 digit alphanumeric value. And you will have the network validation rules, which rule is used. I mean, when the payment is sent to a Swift network, the Swift network will validate this payment. So what are the rule it follows? So that will be available here for this particular tag. And if you want to go into detail on the validations performed, you can click on the network validation rules. So where you can go and see what is specifically. So if a particular tag is present, the another tag must not be present. So those kind of validations happen. So the presence of this tag is mandatory. So if a Swift MT103 message is sent without this tag, then the Swift network will reject this payment. So that's how it works. And you can also, in all these tags, you can see that there is an example provided. So in many cases, when you have a question on what information is valid for this tag and so on, this example will come, which will really help you. For me personally, it has helped in a lot of cases. But this is not, I mean, to not cover all the cases, but certainly in many cases it will be of great use. So this 20, we'll just see quickly go through the mandatory tags alone. So 20 is the sender's reference. So it is the message reference, a unique number or alphanumeric text that is present in the tag 20 that identifies this payment. So usually the receiving bank will, what it will do is it will perform duplicate check on this payment. So one of the criteria that it uses is the sender's reference. There are many cases where sender's reference are reused, but that's why I said it's one of the criteria that is used for duplicate check validation. The second mandatory field is the bank operation code, which is 23B. So here you will most commonly see something known as CRED, which means that it is a credit transfer. But there is one more field called tag 23E. So if banks have something called code words, so it's like the code word literally means what what we use in our day-to-day life. Banks use these code words to process payments in a special way. So there are a set of code words that are provided by Swift, which is called as Swift code words, and you can also create your own code word in cooperation with the other bank that you are dealing with. Those are called bilaterally agreed code words. So if that code words are present, then the payment will take a different path than normal processing. Let's click on 23B. So here are there are different messages, different code words that can be present in 23B. So the most common one you can see is CRED, but there are others as well. So you can read about that here. The next tag is 32A. So here, this is a very important one, in my opinion, the most important, because this talks about the date. So 98 is the year, 12 is the month. Hope I'm highlighting. 98 is the year, 12 is the month, and 09 is the date. And the next three characters stands for the currency, and then followed by the amount. So this actually provides this field provides three key information. The first one is the value date. I mean, the value date means the date for which the amount the amount's value the date on which the amount as value will come into picture. So that's what value date literally means. The second key information that 32A provides is the currency of the payment. And the third one is the amount. So here you can see the payments, the currencies last two characters are separated by a comma and not a dot. So that's one important factor to note. A lot of times when we inject a payment, when we test out a payment, sometimes we input dot and it doesn't work. Yeah. You can also input a payment without any integer value. So that system will accept that. Yeah. And the next mandatory field is the ordering customer. So
Santosh.
yeah.
Actually, recently I had an interview where interviewer told me that this 33B is also mandatory.
No, it is not
But
mandatory.
I don't find it anywhere.
It is not
He
ma-
said that
Mhm.
instructed amount is also mandatory in MT103.
No,
Do
it-
you have any idea about
no,
it?
it is not mandatory. It is conditionally mandatory. It is conditionally mandatory.
Actually, in SWIFT 2020, right, they said as a part of 2020 standard, they have introduced this as mandatory. Earlier, it was not. I think
No, no,
that is what even I.
it is actually conditionally mandatory in certain cases. So if you have tag 71G, there is a tag called 71G. If that is present, then you need to have a 33B. So how you can view that is you can go to tag 33B here, and then you can see the presence is conditional. You have to see
Okay.
rules C2 and C15. You can also refer C1. So how do you view this is you click on network validation rules. You have C1. So if the field 33B is present, so you can not so if the instructed currency is not equal to uh, the interbank the 32 the currency in 32A, then it is mandatory. So that's one condition in which it is mandatory. The second criteria is 14 C14. In 14, if tax 71G is present, then 33B becomes mandatory. So yeah.
So in ISO 20 or 22, again, it's not mandatory. The same rule which we have in MT, those are applicable for ISO 20 or 22. So if 71G is present there, I mean, the sender is going to bear everything. In that case, definitely instructing amount will be appear in 20 or 22 along with interbank settlement amount, which is 32A.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, it is not mandatory. 33B is definitely not mandatory for a regular payment, but it's conditionally mandatory. So that's how I would put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, 36 is one field. If 36 is present, then 33 is mandatory, definitely. Yeah. So there are several cases. I mean, there are the problem with SWIFT MT103 is if we go into the nuance of each field and if we talk about the different combinations, it's a huge topic. I mean, still I think I haven't learned MT103 to the fullest. Every day I'm discovering in the last 6 months I learned more about tag 50 than in my previous 4.5 years. So it's like that. You dive deep into each one of these tags, and there are several combinations that are possible, and yeah, and each bank actually does things in slightly different way, although it should everything should adhere to the rules mentioned here. Definitely you cannot have an exception to that rule, but in common usage you cannot say one approach is the right approach, because some banks use things use this standard in different ways. So the next one is quite important in my opinion, because there are three possible values. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen 50H also. By chance in our MT103, I saw
Yeah, no,
message. I
it
never
is
knew
not.
that it is there, but is it there?
It is not there. 50H is present in tag 10 MT101. So you go to MT101
Okay.
format specification. You can see 50H. Yeah, you can see 50H.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not part of MT103. In MT103 you will have
A, K, and F only. Yeah.
AKNF only. So what will happen is, actually you can map each H is can be mapped to K or L, I think. I mean K or the other one.
K
K
or
or
A, maybe.
no, not A is used for big. So
Pick
A,
an
yeah,
account number.
F or K. H, I don't
F.
remember which, but yeah. What we can do is, it's a good point. I'll also learn. I'll duplicate this tab. I'll open IMT101 format specification. So option F will be mapped to option F in MT103. That I'm sure. The other one I need to check. So here you can see account and identifier code, which is account, and so F is mapped to G from MT101. I stand corrected. So option A is mapped to name and address. So K, so, and so on. So you can compare this format and from MT103 and the format in MT101 to make the connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, like for 50 has three different can have three different values. 50 is mandatory, but 50 has three options possible: option A, F, and K. So each one can contain different types of information. For examples of that, you can visit here. So 50A will contain the account number and BIC. 50F will contain the account number, name, and address, but it will have this 1/, 2/, and so on. And option K, where is option K? Yeah, in K you will not have that number, but you'll have just slash and the account and name and address. So that's how we need to read this. So if you want to read this, /34x means that so there are totally 35 characters allowed in the first line. One is occupied by the slash, and the rest 34 alphanumeric characters are possible to denote the account number. Then you would have the identifier code, which is nothing but the BIC. So there was a question on BIC, right? So BIC stands for Business Identifier Code. So those are codes given to banks, which uniquely identifies a bank. It follows ISO standard as well. So I would ask you, I can request you to refer to an article that I wrote on this topic. I'll just post a link to it. So here you have the big so it's not only given to banks. I mean, financial institutions can also have BICs. And also non-financial institutions, big corporates also can have BICs. So that's what I wanted to say. The BIC can be 11 or 8 characters in length. So the 8-character BIC generally represents the home branch or main branch, and the last 3 characters represents the the specific branch. So if the last 3 characters are XXX, then it means that it represents the home branch. So if you mention just the 8 character big, it's enough. 11 last 3 characters are optional. So I'll post the link to this as well in here. Okay, so going back to this option F, if the first line can have 35 characters, which is the party identifier, which can be account number or it identifies the ordering party in whichever way possible, and then you have 4 lines. Can have 4 lines of a number followed by a slash and 33 characters. So totally 35 characters are allowed. One is occupied by the number. The second one, second character is occupied by the slash, and rest you can have 33 characters. I mean, you can have a lot of stuff. So these are what the numbers mean. 1 means name of the ordering customer, 2 means address line, and so on. I mean, if you go detail into it, I mean, it will take forever for us to understand the whole picture. I'm just going to give a bigger picture. You can definitely visit this page and read about it. It's pretty simple, and or you can drop me a message anytime. I would love to discuss this part, tag 50A, because recently my client actually drilled me about tag 50A, and I had to learn every single thing about it. So the next mandatory field is tag 59, which is beneficiary customer. It can have no letter option or A or F. So no letter option. I mean, again, you can go to the specification to read in detail about what the different options are for the user to use. The next one is tag 71A, which talks about the charges. I have a separate section for charges. I even wrote a post about it yesterday on the different type of charges that can be used in MT103 message. And you can refer that and I'll also try to correlate that post with SWIFT MT103 in particular, and then these are just mandatory fields. Some of the other fields are conditionally mandatory. As I said, you can click on each of the numbers and go through what each of those conditions are and so on. Moving on to
regarding the charges, no?
Yeah.
I had one query.
Yes.
Regarding the charges.
Yeah.
So how do we, like, there are three types of charges, fine, but how are the accounting entries done? Because in 202 cover, I think we do not have charges, right?
No, we don't.
But still charge will be collected somehow, right?
Yes.
As a separate client charge, or I don't know. How does it work on the accounting entries? How can we know?
I mean, I am not sure if you got a chance to look at my post. I can explain that. Yeah. What we can do is we can go to charges for us.
Santosh? Santosh, can you share the link of the post for this charges?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do it to here. Okay. So these are the different possible charges. Oops. Hello, sorry guys.
I mean, as per my understanding, if it is, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead. I got dropped off due
in case
to
of charges. So let's say
cut.
sender is bearing charges. In that case, when we are sending cover method, we are mentioning tag 71G. and where we are instructing. Actually, there are two ways for charges collection. So older ways, sender will collect everything, send deducted amount to next party, and again next party will send back MT 191 to collect charges, and again sender party will send through MT 202. That was the old one. But in new method, what we are doing, we are sending the 71G, and again, I guess in 202 always we are sending that those details. So we are not deducting, sender is not deducting receiver's charges. So he's just mentioning that tag 71G. So it means I have collected my charges. Now you collect your, and instead of sending MT 101 and 202 again, let's have only one message. So that is enhancement we have in MTs regarding charges.
If thanks. I'd like to just provide some more clarity on that. So there are basically three types of charges, right? R, Ben, and Shah. So Shah is everyone understands. So that, let's say there are two banks that are involved, and each bank will have its own charge. So who bears the sum of the two banks' charges is the question. So in Shah case, both will be shared. The ordering bank's charges will be paid by the ordering customer. The sending bank's receiving bank's charges will be paid by the beneficiary customer. So that's very simple. So in Ben case, both the bank's charges will be paid by the beneficiary customer. In our payment, in our charge method, both the charges will be paid by the ordering customer. So how this is, I would like to refer you to this table. In our, there are two types of charges. One is our prepaid and normal R. So our prepaid is in this example I've talked about the payment amount will be the amount that will be debited. So let's say customer A is sending customer B $1,000. So what will happen is if our prepaid option is chosen, then 1,020 will be debited from the ordering customer. And in the payment amount, 1,010 will be sent. So this is assuming $10 charge is taken by the ordering bank, and $10 charge is taken by the beneficiary bank. So the amount will be prepaid by the sending bank. So the payment amount will contain the actual amount that needs to be credited to the beneficiary plus the charges that of the receiving bank. So it will be prepaid and sent to the receiving bank. So so once the receiving beneficiary bank or the receiving bank receives the 1010 amount, it will credit 1,000 to the beneficiary customer and then credit its PL account with $10. So the accounting entries, as you asked, is that the debit customer or the ordering customer will be debited 1020. The Nostro account will be credited 1010. So that's the accounting entry that happens in the ordering customer's bank's account. In the receiving bank or the beneficiary account with institutions bank, what will happen is it will debit 1010 from the Nostro account, and then it will credit 1,000 to the beneficiary customer, and it will credit the rest $10 to its PL account. So that's how the accounting entry happens for our prepaid. And based on this example, you can read the other three, I believe. So our is a case in which, somebody was just giving that example. So our is a case in which the amount is not prepaid. So what the 1,020 is anyways debited from the ordering customer. So but only 1,000 is sent in the payment, which means 32A will contain only 1,000. In first case, 32A will contain 1010. and then the 1,000 will be credited to the beneficiary customer, and then the beneficiary bank will have to send a claim payment. So that is usually an MT191, or some banks send 799 as well, I believe. So that is used to communicate the charges of the receiving bank to the sending bank, and then the sending bank will again send a MT202, or it can do even a book transfer. Sometimes the amount is even settled via book transfer. In the first case, the problem is we have to know what the receiving bank's charges are before we send the payment. There might be a case where the receiving bank's charges might be high, so we might send 1010, but the charges might be $12. So for the rest of the $2, they will again send a claim payment. So that's also a possible case. Yeah, and the SHA we have already discussed. I mean, each bank collects whatever its fees from its customer, and Ben is the case in which it's a pretty interesting case. The customer asks. So basically what the customer says to the bank is, see, I want to send $1,000 to that guy. You send $1,000. You just debit $1,000 from my account. I don't care how much amount reaches the beneficiary. So that is the case. So $1,000 is debited from the ordering customer. Only $990 is credited to the Mirror Nostro or Vostro, or whatever it is, and that $990 will reach the receiving bank. The receiving bank will take its charges. I mean, it will reduce $10 and then credit $980 to the beneficiary customer. So this is sort of the accounting entry that happens in a rough idea. I mean, there are a lot of exceptions to it. So for example, if the payment is if the details are not proper, and if payment is not a STP payment, the bank collect additional charges and so on. So in those cases, again the bank sends a claim and so on. So the way banks charge that, the way the banks charge their customers, the way it collects the money from correspondent banking is quite quite flexible actually. Different banks do it in different. Some banks do it in batches. Some bank sends payment for each of those, a claim for each of those transactions they receive, and so on. It really depends. In the correspondent banking space, it really depends on what the agreement is between the two banks that are operating. So it's quite flexible, I would say. I hope I've answered the question.
Hi, Santosh.
Yeah.
I have a doubt regarding charge based on hour.
Yes.
From the table, we are able to see that we are debiting 1,020 from the customer.
Yes.
And in the case of second one, and we are receiving a charge claim from the receiver bank.
Yes.
If we receive a charge claim with the amount which we have already debited, 10. In this case, 10 is the beneficiary bank, but we received a charge claim with a 15.
Yes.
In that case, what will be done?
Yeah, I mean the point here is that we have to pay the receiving bank charges no matter what. Okay. So if they are sending 12 as the amount, if we feel that that is not correct, I mean the bank will call up, and so let us assume they are saying 12 is the fees, and we have to pay it. We have to pay it actually. We will pay that, and then we have to debit the customer and credit the internal account. So this transactions, what will happen is, I mean the bank's internal account will be credited, and an MT202 will be sent. So we will debit the internal account for the bank and send that MT202, and then we'll retrieve that amount from the customer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
One question on tag 59F and 50F. So is it mandatory to have the third line slash in both the tags?
1 second. Which one?
3/9. For 59F and 50F.
Okay. Third
Hello,
line.
as per new regulatory requirement, it is mandatory.
This is
November
a very okay. Is it? I'm not aware. If it is, I have to check actually. So this one, huh?
Actually, I am working on this requirement only.
Okay. Excellent. So,
the country code one.
A line starting with number 3 must be present. Yes, it's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is true.
Thank you.
I haven't looked at the 2021 specific, yeah, but thanks. You brought it up. I think it is.
So it is mandatory. There is some reason. In case if bank is unable to find customer, so the last resort is to get country code, and from that line it derives bank and it tries to derive beneficiary.
Okay.
So that is the reason they have made it mandatory.
Yeah.
And also 1 and 2 line should not be present more than twice.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Santosh, just one query from my side. Tax 72, though it's optional.
It's optional.
How many? Yeah, it's sender to receiver information, right? So how many maximum bigs we can mention there?
How many maximum bigs? I
Right.
think okay. I don't know that answer to the exact question. I think I have to get. What I'll do is I'll check and get back to you on that.
Sure. And just one more thing.
I have to
So
read
for
through rules. Yeah.
domestic,
Please go ahead.
yeah. So Santosh, for domestic transfers, for usually for any transfer, we derive beneficiary from Tag 57, right?
Yes.
Account with the institution. So in case of domestic transfers, we know beneficiary, but how we are going to select the clearing system? I want to know more about that. I mean, when we send any transfer, right? So everyone knows that it's a domestic transfer, but which system we have to check? We have to select, be it let's say RTGS, be it SCH, whatever it is. So how in message we are going to decide, yes, this system we are going to use? Is there any mechanism for that?
Okay. So let me think about your question. So you want to understand? So basically, if it was up to the bank, they would have a preferred preferred clearing through which they want to clear the payment. So this SWIFT payment is predominantly used in the cross-border space. You agree with that, right? Hello?
For cross-border, I know. I mean, it's pretty clear. For
Yes.
For cross-border, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
But for domestic, just want to understand. Let's say in case of India,
yeah,
right?
If in India we would use we wouldn't use a SWIFT payment. A SWIFT network to transfer domestic. But if we receive a payment from cross-border, and if we want to do the second part of the leg, so for example, we receive a payment in INR from Citibank USA in India. So we will credit that amount to an internal account and then do the second leg of the payment via the local payment market infrastructure.
Exactly.
So in that case, decision is generally made by the bank. The bank,
right.
The bank may so in the current setup that we work, the bank do it manually. So what they do is they end the payment in the first leg, and they initiate a payment from a different, because they don't use the same system for both cross-border payments and local payments. So they stop that payment right away, and then they use a separate system to initiate the payment. So that it is not automated, but I've seen systems where it is automated, and that is dependent on the routing rule. There is something called routing rule setup that each bank has, or each payment engine has. So when a payment is received from a particular beneficiary or a particular country, we will know through which route clearing we need to route that payment. For example, and it also depends upon the country in which you are living. So in Euro, in SEPA, so let's say a country in SEPA receives a payment from US. Okay. So in France, what they do is they connect to if it is within France payment, they will use a system called a score. And if it is outside a France payment, but still within SEPA region, they use IBA. But if the payment is received by Germany, in all the banks will mostly connect to their national clearing. So the SEPA, the German's national clearing will be indirect direct participant of SEPA. Direct participant of EBA. So that is how the routing usually happens. But if it is a high value payment space, there is a tag called 103 what I can show you that once again.
So it will be in basics header, right?
Yeah, it will be a header. In header, if the sender wants to process the payment with it will be in block 3.
Okay. Also in India, the clearing system, whether it is RTGS or NEFT, also selected by the amount threshold as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If it is more than 2 lakhs, then it is RTGS.
Yes, agreed.
Right, and one more point to add to Indian system is that we can send up to 2 lakh in NEFT only, and post that we can select both. We can select both NEFT as well as RTGS. So in that case, how we are going to choose which channel?
It depends upon the urgency.
Actually, we have the option to select whether it is NEFT or RTGS in system.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one question here, Santosh. What is RMA here?
RMA means relationship management agreement. So it is basically a relationship management application. So it is a feature provided by SWIFT to prevent unwanted messages from reaching your bank. So what you have to do is, so if I'm a bank and you are a bank and we have a correspondent relationship, so I will give you permission to send messages to me. So that permission is called as RMA. I can share you a link.
Sure.
Yeah,
so can we have a direct cover for MT103 without RMA?
No. If you need to send a MT103, you need to have RMA. We are going to discuss that in just a bit. Okay. Yeah, we're going to. I thought of discussing MT103 serial and cover method, but we hope. We'll just quickly run through it. Any other questions again?
Sure.
But I mean, to answer the previous question,
Santosh, just two things. We can, if you can brief us more about the routing channels and the correspondence bank role in SWIFT.
Sure. I mean, we are actually getting to that when we talk about the SWIFT serial and cover method. We can get detail. We can get into much more detail about the correspondent banking, who the correspondent bank is, and so on. So I was just heading here. So we saw the mandatory fields. We saw the charges. So there are other types of SWIFT MT103 messages as well. So
Santosh. Santosh.
Yeah.
Just one query. When we send some payment through through some Paytm or Amazon or anything, we give reference we are paying for for something like for medicine or for example, customer gives some reference. So when in SWIFT MT103, I think it's 70 or 71A, there is detail of charges. So can we rely? It comes automatically, or it is mentioned by the client? Can we rely on it on that lying on the reference?
What ordering customer types can be mapped to several fields. One of it is, as you rightly mentioned, tag 70. So that will have the purpose of the remittance, what it is for, and so on. So 70 can also contain bank-to-bank information as well. So if the remittance that remittance can also be a tag called 77B, I think, or T. 77T, I think. So it can be present in that tag as well. By rely, I don't understand what I mean. What do you mean? But I mean, you are when you make a payment, you mention this is for rent and so on, right? So that will be present in tag 70.
Actually, I'm asking from the AML point of view. I'm part of a money laundering team, AML team. So we what we do we search for the for the references which are given whether they are these reference true or false, just to misguide the bank. So sometimes on this Swift code, I find reference. There are some lines. See, so I'm unable to understand whether is it true. It is mentioned by the client, customer or not. Can we rely on that? Whether it's mentioned true or it's just to misguide the bank.
I'm not sure I understand. By true, what do you mean? Whether they have given some misinformation or something like that, right?
Yeah. By true, I mean to say they are transferring $1 lakh, which is a black money, to some tax haven.
Okay.
So just to misguide the bank, they instead of they have just mentioned purchasing some electrical equipment.
Okay.
So that line would come in Swift message 71 something.
70
so,
and 72
can
72
7
sender to receiver information and remitters information, both tag can contain that.
Yeah. So this comes automatically, or is it typed by the customer, that information?
It comes, what it depends on the mapping, actually. It can contain what it can contain what the customer types.
Okay, that is mentioned by the customer, you mean to say that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Santosh.
Yeah. These fields are not mandatory fields, so you need not collect that information from the user. Actually, yeah. So that's why I said it may not. So if you go to the 1 second, if you go to the network specific format specification, neither tag 70 or 72 is mandatory. So yeah. So you need not collect that information, actually. So that's my contention, at least.
No. 71A is mandatory.
71 is mandatory. 71 is detail of charges. It is not remittance information.
71A is mandatory details of charges. So in detail of charges, they mention payment for this, payment for that, payment for this. So is it mentioned by the customer, or how does information comes? 71.
I have seen only the 3-digit code in 71 A.
Apart from that,
you're talking about 71
so it will be SHA, Ben, or that's it.
Yeah. That is my, at least as far as I know, that's true. That's only true. You're talking about 71F, is it?
71A is pertaining to the bank-to-bank charges, right? Yeah. 72 is the payment information.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
71A is bank-to-bank charges,
yes,
right? Any
yes,
charges related by the bank, everything. And 72 is the sender to receiver payment information.
Correct.
What payment is for purpose.
Correct.
If it is for any invoice number, they can mention there.
Exactly.
That is 72.
Exactly.
Actually, I may be not remembering the exact number.
Yeah, it is. I think you are talking about 71F, but 71F is not mandatory. 71F is senders charges information, but I at least not 71F. Sorry, 71F can contain if we'll see what 71F is in the next explanation. But even 71F does not contain any details as far as I know. So I'm not.
Yes, if something else is there apart from those three words, SHA, Ben,
it will be rejected.
It will reject.
Yes.
It will be rejected.
Correct. You're right. At least that's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean those are the usage rules.
Yeah. True. Yeah, maybe what we can do is you can just ping me. Post this call. We can we can get into the details of your query. Maybe we can, because
okay, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I think we are very short on time, but I'll just quickly run through what serial and cover method are. So simple flow explaining. So I'll just give you a few links to read as well. Simple MT103 payment is very similar to the first slide that we saw. So you will have a ordering customer a sending bank, a receiving bank, and a beneficiary customer. So the funds are transferred from ordering customer will be debited. The receiver's bank's Nostro, Mirror Nostro, or a Vostro account will be credited, and then the funds are the payment is sent to the receiver, and the receiver debits the Mirror Nostro and the credits the beneficiary customer. So if you want to understand in detail about the accounting entries, I've written an article on that, on this topic. So you can, sorry, I'm giving you a lot of links, but it's very difficult to explain everything in a single session. So here I provided detailed accounting entries on how things will happen, and what Nostro and Vostro accounts are, and so what is the purpose of creating a Nostro and Vostro account.
Hi Santosh, where exactly are you giving these links?
It's I'm posting it in the chat.
The Teams chat.
Yeah, in Teams chat. Can you see it?
I can't for some reason.
Okay. What?
I can't see the chat.
Okay.
Are you connecting? I can't see.
Are you connecting from mobile?
Facing difficulty in seeing the chats.
Are you connecting from mobile?
No, I'm connected from my laptop.
Okay. Oh yeah. Then I can. I mean, you just ping me after this call. I will collect all these links, and then I'll ping you.
And where are you sharing this information? Are you sharing your screen? Because I cannot see your screen as well.
Oh, is it? I'm sharing my screen actually. Others able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. There must be some sort of issue. But yeah, I'll share all these links with you. Yeah. I'm not sure why you are not able to see my screen. Okay.
When there is a link, Santosh block is there, payments domain. If you will go there, you will find all these articles there itself. In case it is chat account visible to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's payments domain, http paymentsdomain.com.
Yeah.
And anything specific over there in the website? I do have the website open.
In that you go to payments introduction and go to accounting entries in payments. So that's the tab in which you can see there.
Okay.
And miscellaneous payment concepts, charges, and you can read through some.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So this.
One more thing, while we will be following the link, right? It's better to download the Teams app and then log into that particular link which is shared by Santosh, so we can able to see the chat window as well. If you directly open through the browser, then it will not show the chat.
Oh, is it awesome? You solved the mystery I had for quite some time. I'm sorry for rushing through, because we have 10 more minutes left, and I don't want to take much of your time on a Sunday. So this what we can do is the one that I explained, a simple credit transfer flow that we just saw from Paymentor. This is a CDL payment. There's something called as a cover method. I also shared the link of the accounting entries as well. So CDL. So when the CDL and cover methods are used. So if I am a bank and you are a bank, there are two things we need to have in order to exchange funds, and we need in order to exchange payments. So if I need to send any payment to you, we need to have an RMA. Whether CDL or cover method. RMA is absolutely essential for us to send funds to another bank. And we have something else called as accounting relationship, which I have talked about in detail in the accounting entries link that I shared. So accounting relationship is a situation where we open accounts, we as a bank open accounts with other banks. So we have a Nostro-Vostro relationship with other banks. So the reason for us doing this is, let us say we are a bank in India. We would be typically exchanging payments to other banks in India. So in INR. So we do not deal with, we do not say send USD payments to other banks in India. So typically, I am speaking. So if you need to send funds in USD to a customer in US, what the bank in India will do is it will go open an account in a bank in United States. So by that, what I mean is, so we will have a correspondent relationship or an accounting relationship with a bank in United States. By doing that, what we'll do is we will become an indirect participant of the US payment system. So that bank in US will be our correspondent. So that bank in US will help us in sending funds to any of the banks in US, because they are part of the US banking system. So that bank in turn will charge us some amount for this correspondent relationship. Similarly, that bank in US can open an account with us. So usually you will have a unilateral relationship with a bank in a particular country, or we'll have bilateral. So bilateral in the sense, I open account with the bank, and that bank opens an account with me. So in that is bilateral, and unilateral is that only one of that is true. So that bank in US is our currency correspondent / country correspondent. So both the terms are interchangeably used. So basically the word correspondent comes into picture. So our correspondent in US will help us in sending US dollar payments. So we will debit money from our customer who is having an INR account. We will credit the funds to the account that they hold with us, or the mirror of the account that we hold with them, and then we will send the payment to the bank in US. That bank in US will route it to the end beneficiary bank or customer. So that bank acts as a buffer or a correspondent between us and the final beneficiary's bank. So if I have a direct relationship with the final beneficiary's bank, then I send a serial payment to that bank. If I don't, then I use my correspondent bank to send funds. So there are two methods possible here. One, I send the payment to MT103 to my correspondent, and my correspondent will forward it to the final beneficiary bank. The problem with that is I will have a charge, my correspondent will have a charge, and the final beneficiary will have a charge. So this method is called a serial method, and the charge for this type of payment will be more. It is also important to note that MT200 series messages generally do not have charges. So a clever way of doing this is, I send the payment MT103 announcement. There is something called announcement which does not carry any funds. It is just an announcement to the final beneficiary bank, and I send a MT2 to cover to my correspondent, who then forwards it to the beneficiary, or he credits the beneficiary's account with him and just sends an MT910. So in this case, what happens is both the payments are reconciled at the beneficiary bank's end, and the funds are credited to the final customer. I know if you are feeling a little overwhelmed by this explanation, I totally understand, because it's quite important to get. So if you are getting into any payments interview, the most important is, the sure question that you will get is the difference between serial and cover method. So when can we send a serial payment to another bank? When we have both RMA and accounting relationship. When can we send payment using cover method? Is only when we have RMA and we don't have accounting relationship. So that's the answer that we can give, and that's true as well. In the serial
what?
Sorry?
RMA
is relationship management application. So it is like a permission that we give to another bank to send us payment. So if I'm a bank and you are a bank, I will give you permission to send MT103 or 1 series and 2 series. So you must have it in your IT ecosystem. So when you send a payment to me, you must check if you have an RMA with me. If you do not have an RMA, you cannot send a payment to me. So that's RMA. It's an application or a feature that is used to prevent unwanted messages from reaching me. If unwanted messages reaches me, then I have to invest a lot of time, money in sorting out these unwanted messages. I have to reply back to them saying that oh, okay, you have sent it to the wrong person and so on. So to prevent all that, we have this mechanism in place. You can go to my website paymentdomain.com, miscellaneous payments, and then you can read about RMA. RMA is
Santosh, one question.
Yes.
Only one query. Actually, with regard to the cover and serial payment, only the RMA is the deciding factor.
Accounting relationship is the deciding factor. If you need to send money, payment to a bank, you need to have RMA.
Okay.
If you don't have accounting relationship,
if you didn't have the RMA also, we can send the announcement message, right?
No, we cannot. If you don't have,
how we will bank will prefer it is a serial payment or cover payment? Is it only deciding for what are the other factors?
The bank will decide it based on whether so if the beneficiary bank is a bank with whom we have a RMA and an accounting relationship.
Okay.
In that case, we will send directly a serial payment to them.
Okay, that's fine. If we have only an RMA, but we didn't have account relationship,
if we have
in that case, they will send a cover payment.
Yes, cover payment. If we don't have an RMA and if we don't have an accounting relationship, we cannot send any payment to them. We have to use the serial method to send the payment to our correspondent, and the correspondent will forward that MT103 to the end bank. Yeah.
So, Santosh, can you give any example in terms of a domestic transfer or cross-border to explain this serial versus cover?
Domestic payments do not. Sure. What we can do is we can draw up
one more small question that I was asked in interview is how will we know from a 103 message that I have to wait for my tour to cover?
So you will have tag 55, 54, 53. So that's the next topic that we are going to discuss. If you cover method tag 55, 54, 53. This group is quite. You think advanced.
Santosh, I have a question here. Is that any specific reason why we are having cover? Is that only to save the charges?
That is one thing. Actually, we can go into history of why cover was introduced. Okay, so what banks started doing is, banks started sending a message to. I'm a bank in India, and I don't have a relationship with accounting relationship with Citibank in US. Okay, so what banks did was they sent MT103 announcement to them, and they sent MT200 202 to Chase US33, for example, and that Chase US33 forwarded that MT200 to the Citibank. What happened was Chase did not know what is the purpose of this MT200 202. Okay, so they were not able to perform money laundering checks and so on. So a lot of confusion came, and they were not able to satisfy the regulatory requirements. So then SWIFT introduced MT202 cover, which will contain the details of MT103, so that they will know what the payment is for. I mean, who the ordering customer and beneficiary customers are, and they will have a fair idea on the fact that this payment, this MT200 message, is a carrier of funds for underlying MT103. That is the reason for which they introduced MT2 to cover specifically. But major reasons is cost saving, yes. So if I'm sending 40 euros,
thank you, Santosh.
40 euros via two correspondents, so I will take 10 euro. The sender's correspondent will take 10 euro. The receiver's correspondent will take 10 euro, and the final beneficiary will take 10 euro, and 0 euros will reach the beneficiary. So instead of that, if I send direct announcement to the final beneficiary, only 20 euros will be the fees, and you can save 20 euros. Of course, you have to pay fees for correspondent banking and so on, but that's a different, that's comparatively less too. Yeah. Paying fees for each transaction. So what we can do is if RME is yes and accounting relationship is no, then cover method is used. If RME is yes, accounting relationship is also yes, then serial method is used. So for people who are not able to see my screen, I apologize because I'm just writing. I'm just creating an Excel box to see. So if RME is no, and accounting relationship is no, we have to use serial. And if RME is no and accounting relationship is yes, this is not applicable at all. So I have never seen this case number 4 where we have an accounting relationship without an RMA. I have never seen it. So the first 3 cases are true. I'll probably post it in the chat. I will try to what you can do is you can just drop me your email here. I'll once again I can send you an email with all the links. Will that be fine?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, fine, Santosh. I think that's too much effort for you, but thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll drop you mine.
Yeah. I'm actually, what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to create a subscription list. So I didn't want this pop-up to appear when people read my website. So far I have not introduced that subscription or where a place where I collect email ID. So I'm planning to introduce that feature. Once I do that, I'll send regular updates via that mailing list. Okay, I think we can carry on. So quick.
Santosh.
Yes.
Santosh, Vaibhav here.
Yes.
I just had one query regarding cross-border transaction.
Yes.
Related to charges actually. So, I just take example like when I send a money from here Australia to India. So that time, let's say I use some middleware functionality like maybe TransferWise or still some other third-party channel where I send. So they have some account in a bank here, and they just transfer to other bank in India, and then they credit to my original account where I need to send them.
Yes.
So actually, they just while transferring that payment, they just putting a charges of the money transfer only. They are not putting any additional charges. So as you said, what kind of charges is it? How they deduct the charges from all the accounts for their transfer charges and all this. Because it includes 4 banks overall. So is all the 4 banks will take a charges, or it's just like a one charge which is money transfer charge will deducted?
Understood. So you refer to TransferWise, which is actually it operates in a very unique way. So TransferWise it does what exactly we discussed here, but it uses only the local clearings of different banks. So how if you transfer money via TransferWise, what will happen is you might see that very little charges will be debited from or in some cases they don't make any they don't deduct any charges at all. So how the clever way in which bank takes charges is by the rate that they provide for foreign exchange. So you will have the currency market rate, okay, which is to which they will add some float or not float. They will add some margin to it, and that margin will be the bank's profit, or the company like TransferWise's profit. So they will provide you a better rate than traditional banks. But still they would have a margin over the current market rate, and that's how they take charges.
So yeah, understand. But is in that case, TransferWise will also take a charges of theirs, and because definitely the TransferWise will send that money to other bank in Australia here, which have a relationship like RMA with the Indian bank, Indian bank. And that Indian bank will transfer to my India bank account, right? It's not directly transferred to.
It is not. It doesn't use the traditional SWIFT network.
Yes. Correct. So in that case, I mean, all the three banks will take a charges. Like, I mean,
TransferWise will collect the charges from the exchange rate, and it will pay charges to the bank in Australia and the bank in India. Yes.
Yeah. So actually, while I'm transferring, it's just showing me that, I mean, in India, I get full money, only the transfer amount money deducted.
Yes.
So how they settle that amount? I like
they settle.
pay that amount.
Yeah, they settle it through. So usually, what happens is TransferWise isn't a financial institution. I'm not sure if it is a financial institution or if it is just a private corporation. So either way, they will have open an account with the bank in Australia or the bank in like any bank in India, or they might have correspondent relationship with a bank in Australia or India, and then they will settle funds with them. So that's how I think it will happen. But I'm not sure exactly how TransferWise operates. Because that's it's like a private entity that operates.
Yes.
Yeah. It doesn't fall under the traditional cross-border payment. It isn't a bank that offers this service. That's my idea of it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. It's a bank in middle. I mean, it's not like the TransferWise is doing the transactions. It's just a bank in the middle, which exactly taking that payment and transferring to both the kind of, I mean, cross-border like India and Australia, like that.
Yeah, my best guess on this topic would be that they would open an account with the bank in Australia or one of the banks in Australia, and then do transfers internally, and they would pay fees to the bank in which they hold the account, and then that bank will in turn share the fee with the other bank. So that's my idea of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe. I tried to read about this some time back, but I don't remember. Maybe I'll try to find something. Yeah. It's a good point that you raised.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Santosh. This is Yuvraj here. I have a doubt.
Yeah.
So, in serial method, if the RMA says an account relationship is also S, why can't it be a normal transfer? Why is that a serial transfer?
Normal transfer is serial transfer.
Okay, normal. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Santosh, I was just trying to text you, but it's saying I'm no more longer a participant in this.
Okay.
It's Nitin here. Shall I text you? I mean, it's not allowing me to text you.
Is it? You can text me your email separately. No, via LinkedIn. If you are unable to. Text here, you can send me via LinkedIn, no problem. I'll collect it and send it to you.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah. So I just wanted to quickly run through. Actually, I missed out on this. So there is something called MT103 STP and MT103 remit. So MT103 STP is nothing but some of the fields are we saw that each field has its own rule, right? So in MT103 STP message, it is the fields are even more restricted. There aren't much options for the user to input. For example, always A should be used and so on. So the reason for this is if all the picks are provided, everything's provided, it increases the STP rate. So that's why the MT103 STP payment will have much more stricter rules than a regular MT103. So here you can go to MT103. So here we saw MT103 single customer credit transfer. You will also have a single customer credit transfer STP and remit and so on. Remit means that it has extended remittance information, the one that we discussed earlier, where we talk about what is the purpose of the payment and so on. So I just wanted to quickly run through this. I also had two optional topics, MT103 reject and return. There are two more MT types of MT103s, but they are totally different from a regular one, MT103. Hence, due to lack of time, I think we can skip this and we can probably work something out in the next session. Okay, serial method. So another quick tip is that serial method will have tag 56 and 57. I mean, it can have tags 56 and 57. If tag 53, 54, or 55 is present, then it is a cover method. The MT103 is settled via cover method, except for one case, it's 53B. That I mean, we'll not discuss that in today. But I can share links to the articles as well. So what I suggest you to read more about the serial and cover method is that you can go to paymentor.com, go to cross-border payments, then go to page number 4. Okay, maybe 3. And you can start by reading basic MT103 message decrypted, option field 53B, 70, 71G, and so on. And you can start with the difference between serial and cover method. And you can read this series on SWIFT MT103 to cover payment analysis part 1, 2, 3. So this is hugely helpful. It'll give you an idea on the different MT103 shared. So a quick example of that would be just give me 1 second. We would send as a sender bank, we would send an MT103 announcement to a receiver bank, and you would send a cover to the guy in tag 53A of the original announcement, and the bank, which is also called a sender's correspondent, which will then create an MT202 cover and send it to receiver's correspondent, and then finally receiver correspondent will forward it to receiver. So all these 3 MT2002s will have different information in them. So to understand that, you can just go through these articles. It's really helpful.
Santosh, can you please share the link of this page?
I'll share all the links. I'll share all the links via email. Just drop me your email ID. Yeah. I will.
Santosh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please.
Yes, I wanted to know this MT103 announcement you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different from the normal MT103 a bank sent to another bank sending a payment? How is this? What's the difference between this MT103 announcement and a normal MT103 that we know?
An MT103 announcement will have tag 55, 54, and 53. A normal MT103 or a serial payment will not have these 3 tags. So that is the primary difference. So I mean, if 55 is present, then 54 and 53 must be present. If 54 is present, then 53 must be present. So that is the rule. The funds, I mean, the final beneficiary, the receiving bank, right? So that bank will receive funds from either 55 if present. If not present, then 54. Then if 54 tag 54 is not present, then from tag 53, the guy in tag 53. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So, okay.
Santosh, this MT103 announcement will directly go from the bank to the other bank, and it will not go through the CSM, right?
It need not. It need not. It will be sent via SWIFT network.
It will not go to. Will not go to CSM.
Yes, it will not go to CSM.
Okay, thanks.
Because in case of serial, there need to be a direct relationship.
Yes. So I mean, to understand this, we need to zoom back on the whole payments landscape. So the payments are settled via 2 methods. One is correspondent banking method. The other one is the payment market infrastructure method. So this payment market infrastructure is just a fancy way of saying clearing and settlement mechanisms. But you can settle funds via the clearing and settlement mechanism, or you can have a direct relationship with the bank and settle funds with them. Both are allowed and possible. So usually the cross-border payments space is dependent on the correspondent banking method. So because there isn't a universal clearing this clearing and settlement mechanism usually operates within a region or a country or a group of few countries and so on. It is not operated through, there isn't one clearing settlement mechanism that connects all the countries in the world. There is nothing like that. But SWIFT is a network that has banks from 180 countries, I think. No. So a lot of countries participate in SWIFT network, so they can open accounts with each other and exchange funds. I think I wasn't able to spend much on time on a serial and cover method. Probably what we can do in the next session, we can talk exclusively about serial and cover method, because there are several variations and how is the senders and receivers correspondent determined. So how will a sender bank know who the receiver's correspondent is for this particular bank? So all this we can probably see in the next session. But just to understand serial method, simply put, serial method is where the sender bank directly sends payment to a receiver bank, or it sends to sender's correspondent, receiver's correspondent, and then the receiver. So all the messages here are only SWIFT MT103. So a cover method is a method in which sender sends a MT103 announcement to receiving bank and uses another type of message called as MT202 cover to send funds. So the MT202 cover will carry the actual funds, and MT103 announcement is just an indicator or just an announcement saying that, hey, funds are coming via that MT202 cover. So the receiving bank has usually reacts to it in two ways. One is they will not wait for the cover. So if the sending bank is a bank that they know very well, or the correspondent bank is a bank they know very well, what they will do is they will just process the payment and they will say, yeah, it's fine, you can send it to me anytime, and the payment processing will be completed. So that's how the receiving bank will react to it. The other way is that they will wait for the 202 cover, and once the announcement comes in, it will be waiting for cover, and the cover will come in, and both the payments will be reconciled, and then the amount will be credited to the beneficiary. And there is also other methods, like they will have a limit for sender. So if, up to $1 million they can send IMT103 announcement, and post which they have to wait for cover and so on. So it really depends. There are several variations to it. Yeah.
Hi Santosh. Got one doubt.
Sure.
In the serial method, okay. For example, HDFC Bank India want to transfer funds to JP Morgan, but they didn't have an account relationship.
Yeah.
So they are transferring the funds to Chase. Okay, they are transferring funds to SCB US.
Yeah, okay.
In the serial method, HDFC India is sending the MT103 to SCB US, and the SCB US sending the 103 to the JP Morgan.
Yes.
How this 103 message will differ?
Okay.
What are the fields and tags will differ? For example, in HDFC India will have same MD 103 details as SCB New York, or it will differ?
Okay, so let us say these only these three banks are involved: HDFC, SCB, and Chase. If you are sending MT, so in the MT103 that HDFC sends, the receiver will be Chase.
Okay, yes.
And the account with institution tag 70 will be the account with institution tag 57 will be JP Morgan Chase.
Okay.
So sender will be us, receiver will be let us assume Citibank, because Chase and JP Morgan Chase I'm confusing. So let us assume there are three banks: HDFC, Citi, and JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase is the holds the final beneficiary's account.
Yes.
So in the message that HDFC sends, the sender will be HDFC, receiver will be Citi, and tag 57 will be JP Morgan Chase. So if there is a sender's correspondent or receiver's correspondent who's involved, then we will have tag 56 as well. So we sender will be us, receiver will be Citibank, tag 56 will be BNY Mellon, for example, and tag 56 will be BNY Mellon, and tag 57 will be JP Morgan Chase. I mean, what I would suggest you to do is, so here we saw the this part 1, part 2 and part 3, right? So there is a similar series of articles written in this website on serial payment. Maybe in the next page.
Santosh, one question: who will be the ultimate beneficiary then?
Ultimate beneficiary will be a customer of the bank. So this, so let us take the example of this bank. The field 57, right?
Okay.
This bank is the beneficiary's account. So there is a beneficiary. Let's say there is a company called XYZ company. That company is the final beneficiary of payment. That bank, that customer's account will be in tag 59.
In this case, it is Citibank, right? Sorry, JP Morgan, right?
Yeah, JP Morgan will have a customer called XYZ company. Okay, that company has an account called.
That's actually with regard to the message sent from SDFC India. 57 carries JP Morgan.
Correct.
Okay, and 59 will be a customer name.
Yes.
Okay, ultimate beneficiary.
Yes.
Where will the Citibank fit into this?
It will be in the block 2 of the SWIFT message, or tag 52 of SWIFT message. Ordering customer. No, tag 52. Sorry, it's not tag 52. It will be in block in the message that HDFC sends. It will the city will be in the block 2.
Okay.
So suppose you are saying it's like a receiver one, right?
Yes,
receiver
it
bank.
is a receiver bank. Yes.
Receiver big. Yeah.
So that
receiver
big will be
Citibank.
Yeah. And tag 56 will be BNY Mellon, and tag 57 will be. So that's why I said in the so here in serial method tag 56 and 57 will be present, and cover method tag 53, 54, 55 will be present. In cover payment you will not find tag 56 and 57. 57 might be present, but I don't think 57 will not be present. Sorry, you will have another 53, 55. Tag 57, 56 and 57 will not be present in the cover MT103 announcement.
Santosh, then what is the difference between MT103 and MT103 cover is this only?
No, normal MT103 will not have tag 53, 54, 55. In announcement, it will have tag 54, 53, 55.
And that is also MT103 cover, correct?
That's yes. MT103 announcement.
Okay.
If it contains 53, 54 or 55, then it is announcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And last one point I wanted to touch is there's something called as confirmation of credit and debit. So if a bank receives a payment from if customer's account is debited, usually the MT900 will be sent. That is known as confirmation of debit. And if customer's account is credited, then MT910 will be sent. That's called as confirmation of credit. So these 910s and 900s are not usually sent to individual customers like you and me, but it is sent to corporates. So they will manage. They need to. They'll have their IT infrastructure to manage and receive acknowledgement from banks for these type of messages.
So Santosh, this message we can see that in send and receive messages in the portal. Like for example, in TPH, we are able to see that those messages as a notification in send receive messages. Correct?
Yeah, we can. From a payment engine perspective, we do. But to subscribe to like MT910 and 900, you need to pay a fee to the bank. So we will not do that. We will send payment and we will receive an SMS saying that the funds are credited and debited. So individual customers usually receive notifications via SMS, email, other ways. But corporate customers actually go for this 910, 900. They will have it integrated in their IT info. They actually, I haven't talked much about the origins of MT103. So usually customers send an instruction, right? So that comes in the form of an API call or some technical call to the payment engine, or it may come via an MT101. So these MT101s are not sent by customers like us. They are sent by corporates from their ERP portal, or their IT infrastructure will create this MT101 messages, and they will have a direct link to bank's portal, and they will send the messages. They do it to avoid manual errors and so on.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I think we have half an hour overrun. So we'll wind up this session with the information that we have discussed so far. If you have any questions, we can spend another 5 minutes on that. Wrong slide.
Santosh, this is Rajalakshmi from my end. I have a question. What is actually the basic difference between 101, MT101 and MT103? 103.
Excellent question. So MT101 is an instruction. So it is used in the customer to bank space. So it is a message used by customer, like a corporate, for example, a corporate customer, to instruct its bank to send a message. So it is used in the customer to bank space. So MT103 is used in the bank to bank space. It is a message used by one bank to instruct another bank to debit its account and credit the end customer account. So if I had to put it very simply, an MT101 will result in an MT103. So going back to the first slide of ours, so John is sending an instruction to Citibank, right? So this will be in the form of MT101, and Citibank is sending a message that will be in the form of MT103. That is the difference between
103.
Yeah.
So while sending MT103, MT101 will also be included, right? While the instruction is sent.
The details from the MT101 will be taken and it will be sent as a MT103.
Okay.
The details from MT101 will be mapped to this MT103, enriched, and it will be sent to the other bank.
Okay, fine.
And MT101 can have like 4 instructions for MT103. Yes. So 4 different MT103s will be generated for that 101, right?
Yes. And there is something called MT102, which is multiple MT103s in a single transaction. So that's also possible. So let us assume that there are 4 different customers. Then yes, 4 different MT103s will be sent.
So you're talking about the bulk message?
Yes.
Okay.
Then what is the difference between 101 and 102? Then 101 also can have...
101,
can be divided.
No, 101 is used by the customer to instruct its bank. 102 is multiple, 102 contains multiple 103s. It is sent from one bank to another. So MT101 is sent by customer to bank. MT202 is sent by bank to bank. But it contains multiple MT101s, 103s, sorry.
Yeah, so it would be like, suppose institution is sending a message request to its bank to do some payments to its vendors. Okay, so they will send MT101 to its bank. What bank will do, if it is sending, if there are multiple banks to which they are supposed to do the payment, so they will say, or there are some correspondent banks are also involved, they will send MT102, which will involve multiple MT103. So again, they are sending a message to a correspondent bank to send multiple messages to different banks. So from correspondent bank, it will go MT103.
Yes. Any
Santosh, there's one more thing called like on forwarding bank where a single bank can send messages on behalf of like different subsidiaries. Do you know about that? In the payment system, we can put a bank for different entities where all the messages and would be sent and received through that particular bank.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, maybe I'm not framing it.
I think he is telling about vendor bank. Like one bank will act for multiple bank payment.
I mean that's possible. So are you talking about direct and indirect participation? Even for example, if there's a cooperative bank in India that wants to be part of a payment system, directly it not join any CSM because you have to pay a lot of fees. You have to set up your IT infrastructure to to connect with the CSM and so on. So what will do it will just open a account with another bank and it will act as an indirect participant. So and also if there's a bank group, one bank, let us say you have Deutsche Bank, Germany, and you will have a lot of Deutsche Bank in other countries as well. So other countries within Europe will hold an account with Deutsche Bank Germany, and Deutsche Bank Germany will be participant of EBA or something like that. Is that what you're talking about? So
yes.
Yeah,
This is what
that
I
is
was
called
asking.
as direct and indirect participation. So the bank that directly has an accounting relationship with CSM is called as a direct participant, and the bank that has an account with the direct participant is called as indirect participant. What will happen is the indirect participants will save money on establishing connection with the and also they will also can reduce their complexity in terms of their IT infrastructure, which again results in cost. Within a bank group, that's how it's done. There is an excellent article in Paymentor on that topic, and last week I wrote an article in my website called on this very topic actually, SCT clearing and settlement. You can find direct participant, indirect participants, and so on. Yeah, you can refer that. I'll include the link in the email.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Any further questions?
Santosh, it's a very nice conversation and the clarification which you have done that. Can you please let me know when will be the next session?
I usually so next 2 weeks I'm actually taking next 1 week I'm completely planning to take an off from LinkedIn because there is a lot of complaints on from my family. I'll just stop recording because this is